Well, hey there, you're on the internet, I have some free time, and welcome to the Triple N Network, where all you newbie nib nerds can find all the news you'll need. Let's look at an ink today, shall we? Now, yes, I have reviewed this ink. I'm re-reviewing it. Why? Because my methods have changed, my style has changed. I've started including different kinds of papers, I have different stuff going on. Yes, those are all reasons. However, I'd say the most common message or whatever thing that I get from viewers is they want me to do a favorites thing, like talk about my favorite inks. And the thing is, my response is always the same. I don't have a favorites, a top 10 of anything really. I have a favorite inks for situations. I have favorite inks when water resistance is not important. Favorite brown inks that shade, or favorite inks to use to address envelopes, or, whatever. The thing is, I keep getting these messages, and I keep trying to figure out a way I could do this, and then, maybe make different videos for those different, little sections or categories. And something occurred to me the other day. The closest thing I probably have to a winner is this, because this ink would probably appear on the most lists. So I think if I had a gun to my head and somebody said, pick a favorite, I'd probably end up saying Noodler's Walnut. It's a beautiful brown ink. It's fantastic. And actually, amusingly enough, this was probably, if not the first Noodlers I got, maybe the second, maybe third. Actually, I still think it probably could have been the first. It is a beautiful, dark, rich brown. It has fantastic shading. It has beautiful little red undertones. When I first got this Vanishing Point with a broad nib, now hopefully you'll be able to see this. See how far apart those tines are? Now this is a, I think, 14 karat nib, and I don't want to mess with this too much, so I've been afraid to try and adjust it. The thing is, the tines are so far apart that sometimes it's hard to get an ink to flow out of it if it doesn't have the right surface tension. However, I'd say just about the perfect ink from the beginning. It was probably, I kept trying to find an ink that would work really well in this pen. Walnut. Noodler's Walnut. It's my favorite. I love putting it in this pen. Now, the thing is, so this is 3 ounces, it's a 3-ounce jar. Actually, it's more like 90 milliliters because Nathan fills them all the way to the top. And the reason why I put that line there is because when I put this down level, and I actually literally took out a ruler and a marker and marked how much ink I had left. So I've used, it's hard to tell because of the angle and the light and whatever, I've used somewhere between 2/3 and 3/4 of this ink of 3 ounces. And the thing is, the reason why I haven't used more of it is because now I'm afraid of running out of it. But how did I manage to get through so much in the first place? This guy. This is my Konrad brush pen. I love using it to address envelopes because it makes quite a statement and it's nice and big writing and all that. And I mean, it's a brush pen. Ink flies out of this thing. So that was how I managed to use, I'd say, the first quarter of the ink. And it's just beautiful. I love this ink. This ink is fantastic. And somebody said something, and I was like, you know what, I gotta get back to this. So I am. And the thing is, I'm a stubborn old mule. If I find something I like, it is hard to unseat that thing. And since this is one of my favorite inks, if I can call it that, period, never mind brown, it's very hard for anything to knock this off of that place. Oh wait, hang on. Okay. Alright. Now, we all have pens that we leave in our bag and they get knocked around and, we don't, for when we need a fountain pen. I tend to use Noodler's Walnut because it's a fun color, because it's brown, it's not blue or blue-black, but it's dark enough to be official. It's semi-waterproof, so I put it in this pen. There's a plastic little 78G with a broad nib. Now, I think, but the thing is, I so rarely have to use a pen when I'm out and about, that I rarely have to refill it. And I'd say I haven't refilled this. Oh, geez. Yeah, I don't think I've refilled this since I got back from my trip the 3rd week of December, and it is now May 1st. I haven't used it in 3 weeks. Boom. The end. Drop the mic. That's it. We're done. Like, that's it. I'm sorry. I love this ink. It's a beautiful brown. It's, like I said, it's got some waterproofness. You know what? Let's get to the test because you got to see this stuff. All right? It is amazing. All right. So, 2 pens I used were these. This is a Pilot Vanishing Point with a broad nib. And this is a Nemosine Singularity with a 0.6 stub. And as you might be able to tell, because you can't see through those tines, those are very tightly pressed together. And I did that intentionally because this is a broad nib and the tines are far apart, and if you can get ink to come out of it, it can be a little wet. So I wanted something that was a smaller nib and was drier. Wanted 2 very different experiences. Now let's check this out. So here's Noodler's Walnut, right? Very dark, rich brown. Shades beautifully. We'll see later some of those red undertones I was talking about. I'd say the closest thing I could find was, I don't even know how to pronounce this, Diamine's Makassar. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I massacred that. I don't even know what it's supposed to sound like, but I'm pretty sure it's not supposed to sound like that. But as you can tell, there's more gold in this. You see how there's more yellow through here? Here there's a little more red. Noodler's Brown, which I've heard good things about, but haven't tried yet. Again, a little more gold, a little more red. Toucan Umber, which I think is what I have in this thing right now, because I did that test a while ago. Let's see. Is there any reason why you can't unseat Walnut? Because you can't. Anyways, Ackerman number 23. The cat hags. I don't know, something of the Hague. It's a very, this is a wonderful brown too. I just finished this test yesterday. You can see lovely shading. It's intensely saturated, but again, a little more gold. It's got a little more yellow in it. This has a little more red. Alrighty. Now, let's check out this chromatography. Because I feel like this chromatography, if you followed my videos and you know how these chromatographies usually work, you'll be able to figure out what's going on here. Now, you can see where that initial drop was put. It's very dark, almost like a gray, with hints of brown. And you might be able to tell there's actually like a texture here. It's not a consistent color. It's sort of patchy. It goes up, little bits towards there, open bits here. Almost an orange. And then you get some red right up at the top, sitting right on top. And here's where I let it dry, which is not how you're supposed to do it. But look at that. This is very solid, very dark. Stuff that here, over here, all through there, orange, and again that red sitting right on top. And if we bring this in close, you see that little bit of red down at the bottom outlining this? I'm telling you, like honestly, now that I've had to like stop and think about it and really consider it, yeah, okay, so if anyone ever asks me again in the future, instead of having to write a whole paragraph explaining, walnut, the end. It doesn't look like a walnut. I mean, when you actually see a walnut like you would crack open and eat, those are a little lighter. This looks like walnut, the wood, like walnut furniture, like heavily varnished walnut furniture. It's gorgeous. Anyways, chemical tests. Water, as you can see this like orangey red stuff coming off, but that gray underneath is very solid, very there. Look at that shading. We'll get to that. Bleach will actually remove some of that orange, but it'll actually somehow like draw this red out, and it won't move that gray. Ammonia pen flush got a little bit of everything moving, which is encouraging. Hydrogen peroxide, I honestly don't know how to describe that. Because as you can see, it moved everything. Like that's where the natural line stops, like right where my fingernail is. So I don't know what that is. That's weird. I have no answers. Now, Clairefontaine, 90 grams per square meter. It's gorgeous. I'm sorry. I love this ink. I love it. Look at this shading through here. The scrubby. Now this is it's fairly dense ink. I mean, like, look at how much it's like dyeing the bottle. and take it a while to settle because there's a lot of stuff in this ink. However, yeah, so you see that like fairly dry 0.6 Stub. It took 8 seconds because even though it didn't put a lot down, what it's putting down is actually pretty dense. Now, that broad, and I want to bring this in close. I want you to see this shading. Because where it's very thin, it's almost like a light, dustier brown. And then where it's laid on thick, it almost gets like shiny. It really does remind me of like a walnut furniture. It's very well behaved. No bleed, no feather, no spread, no echo, no sheen. I like these dry times, considering how dense this ink is and how, like, I'll take it. I'll definitely take it. Very well behaved. And now let's look at this water test. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'd say this is 75% waterproof. You lose the brown, but the gray that remains is very intense and very dark. I mean, look at that. You can barely tell where I put that big drop of water. It's nice. Next up is Fabriano Eco Qua. It's an 85 gram per square meter paper. I like it because it tends to be able to handle inks that even Rhodia and Clairefontaine struggle with. And here, yeah, I mean, like I say here, look at all the browns. Because you get a lot of different browns. Like you see where it's thinner, it's a lighter, dustier brown, but there you can definitely see those hints of red. Sorry about the shaking. I am so caffeinated right now, it's not even funny. It might explain some of my enthusiasm, although I do really love this ink. Now, I want you to look for the very dark parts of this writing, because they almost get shiny. It's a beautiful color. Now that 0.6 Stub took 10 seconds to dry. The broad only took 19. And again, if we bring it in and look at this smear, there's a lot of stuff there. You see how dark just the smear is? It's really not bad. It's great shading. I personally really love this color. And then when you see all the adjacent colors, I mean, this like reddish brown is lovely. This near black, this almost like, yeah, I don't know. It's great. It's really great. And then, you know, very well behaved. No bleed, no feather, no spread, no echo, no sheen. Again, the dot, you can barely tell where that big drop of water was, even though it did remove the brown, because it's just, yeah. And then look at this. Look at how clear this is. Look at how dark that is. Dyed the page a little bit. Like, even here you can still see the shading that would have been present in the writing above. I even love that. So clear. Wonderful water resistance. Next up is Rhodia, 80 grams per square meter, where again, just looks lovely. I mean, look at the scrubby. Look at all these colors. Well, okay, it's one color, but nice variation of color. Now, the 0.6 Stub took 10 seconds, and the broad took 19, but again, look at how much stuff is in that ink. That makes sense, and I can't get over it. Look at this shading. Yeah. You know what, I probably should have loaded it up. This is actually Noodler's Red Black. I should have loaded it up in a pen so I could show you guys. Maybe I'll add that at the end. But yeah, beautiful color. And again, look at this water test. Very clear, very there. Again, you can still see the shading that you would have seen in the writing above. Doesn't freak out. No bleed, no feather, no spread, no echo, no sheen. Fantastic in that regard. Just lovely. Now, next up is Tomoe River paper, which is known for drawing out shading and sheen, but also dry times and echo. And since this is a very dark brown, and this is such thin paper, I mean, it almost reminds someone of okay, so I have 7-pound Japanese onion skin airmail paper. That's probably the only thing I own that is thinner than this. And I own both 11-pound and 9-pound onion skin paper. This is intensely thin. But yeah, since it's so thin and this ink is so dark, you might get a bit of an echo. However, I have a 7 Seas writer, which is full of Tomoe River, and I still love to write with this ink in there. Now, because this is a very saturated ink, and because of just how this paper is constructed, you are going to get drawn out dry times. So despite that being a fairly small stub and very dry writing, it is going to be 19 seconds to dry. However, that broad, which can be fairly wet, 29 seconds to dry. Yeah, I mean, honestly, as much as I love this ink, I was waiting to be like, well, and it still took 4 minutes to dry, or whatever. But honestly, I was glad, because sometimes I have a hard time justifying things. But yeah, okay, so we don't get sheen, but I really hope this will show up. Come on, camera. in the darkest parts, like where it's almost black, it gets almost shiny, which is kind of nice. It almost adds to that varnished wood thing I was talking about. But yeah, it's... This ink is not wet. This is not a wet ink. In fact, it's part of the reason why I love to put it in this pen, because those tines are so far apart. If I can find something that'll come out of this pen, a lot of times it's because it's very thin or very wet, at which point it's like out of control and it'll bleed through anything. But this ink, Walnut, it's more like a 5, maybe? It's actually more like a 4.5. It's a little dry. And yet I never have to fight it out of a pen. I don't know how this works. It's like dark sorcery or something. This pen, haven't used it in weeks. Again, it's probably been in there since December. It's a little darker, but that's it. Case closed. Honestly, case closed. That's it. I'm done. What more do I have to say? Why even finish this video? I'm kidding. Anyway, so, yeah. This paper loves to let ink slide away when you add more water, but it didn't. I mean, it got lighter, yes. But look at what's at the center. It's very clear, very there. Again, you can still see little hints of the shading that you would have seen in the writing before the water. Dots are so clear. Just great. Love this ink. Love it so much. Now, for the next 3 tests, I only use the 0.6 stub, except to write the name, to be fair. Now, this is the world's worst 20-pound copier paper. When I last did these tests, think Joni Mitchell. I didn't know what I had till it was gone. I had a ream of paper from the office I used to work at, and I didn't realize how fantastic it was. I thought it was just your average 20-pound paper. Apparently, it was awesome. I just didn't know it until I had to buy the ream of stuff from, like, Walgreens. This is the world's worst 20-pound copier paper. Let's go a little easy on it. So, first of all, because there's no shading, or well, there's a little in the scrubby, you get a little bit, it's very hard to see, but because there's almost no shading, it looks almost black. Which, for me, is perfect. That's one of the reasons I keep in this pen. Because if I'm, like, I don't know, have to sign a document or something, like if I'm at a bank, have to sign a release form or something, it looks black, so it's acceptable. But I know it's brown. But yeah, very dark. We do get some spread. That's something that this paper, it's like it's unavoidable. It's pretty bad. My lamp still thinks it knows better than me. I will teach it otherwise. But yeah, this ink does spread. That is something that it does. Or sorry, not this ink, this paper, because it's so awful. But, look at this. You get a couple of spots where it's like you can tell something's going on the other side, but if you've seen some of our other tests, this is pretty amazing. And also, let's bring this in. So this is that broad nib. You get the top of the W when I first start writing, and that's about it. Everything in the middle, not a hint. And again, let's check out this water test. The red is coming off. That red from like the very top of the chromatography starts to come off. But the stuff at the center is very clear, very there. Doesn't blink. Doesn't do anything. It's staying very still, very well behaved. I mean, look at how much the paper freaked out. I mean, literally doubled up on itself here. You can see that wrinkle right there? Yeah, oy. Now, next up is Mead Notebook Paper. This is the kind of Mead Notebook Paper you find in like a 5-star spiral notebook, not like a composition lab book. And lately, this stuff has been feathering like crazy. Like, pretty much everything will feather on this. However, this stuff, it's really not so bad. I mean, look at how well behaved that is. We don't even get that much woolliness. It's more just this very small, very dry stub going over the texture of the paper. And look, we still get a little shading. Took 1.5 seconds to dry. Really not too bad. Look at this. No bleed. Not even much echo. And considering this is physically thinner than 20-pound paper, I will take that any day, every day. And look at this. This is the broad right here. You can, see. But the thing is, that's mostly just the light. Heck yeah, I'll take that. Now, water test. Again, that stuff at the center doesn't blink. doesn't move. And this paper tends to, or I mean, this paper tends to make ink just freak out when you add water. No, it's just got that red coming off with the stuff in the middle, very there. Now, here's the thing. In my last test, I said, and this is from like 2 years ago, I said that one of the reasons I love this ink is because I love to keep it in my like throw around pen, and because it behaves very well on Moleskine. The thing is, it usually does. But for some reason it didn't. I mean, like my like everyday carry little like notebook, it's like a Moleskine because I have 40 Moleskines I can't get rid of. Behaves just fine in there, but here, for some reason, it wasn't perfect. And before, it's usually fairly well behaved. Now here we do have a little bit of shading. It took 4 seconds to dry, but we do get some texture stuff going on here. See that? I mean, here it's feathered, but it's mostly just like an intense woolliness. And here we get some spots, so that's the scrubby, but we have some spots that very nearly come all the way through. The broad, I think some of that one did come all the way through, yeah. But, yeah, I don't know, usually it does better on Moleskine. Like, Walnut is my go-to for Moleskine. But yeah, water test still did pretty well. The red is coming off, but the stuff at the center is still fairly dark and fairly there. If you had to recover that, you could. That'd be great. So, yeah, there you go. I'll try and remember to include a little video of me using it in a brush, but, because it looks great in a brush. It's great for addressing things. There's Noodler's Walnut. Possibly my first Noodler's ink. Definitely amazing. It's got great color, great performance, fantastic water resistance. It's just a great color. However, and I will say this, if you leave it in the pen forever with a bad seal, what happens is you will get what I have called, for lack of a better word, silt in your nib. And I really do mean in your nib, because you'll get it here on the underside of the nib. It's almost like a fogginess, like a little hazy grayness. It'll just settle there. It might interrupt the flow the next time you put another ink in there. But honestly, you can just take a Q-tip, go like that, it'll come right off, and then it's like it was never there. However, that is something that this ink does, so I did want to point it out and make people aware of it. However, Kiowa Pecan, another brown ink that I love, oh, it'll be more than silt. It'll be silt on steroids, which was something I didn't learn until I accidentally left it in the pen for 3 weeks. But 3 weeks of this, where's that paper again? La 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 la. After almost 5 months. Yeah. Noodler's Walnut, people. If I had a favorite, it'd be this. For your consideration from the Triple N Network. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to the channel. And thanks for watching. Cue the brush sequence.